Hey there, comic book community. My name is Joe, and you're watching 360 Comics. But not just that, you're watching a very special episode of 360 Comics today because 1 year ago, on July 1st, 2021, we dropped our very first video on this channel, and now a year later, we've released well over 100 videos, and I'm having a great time doing so. Really enjoy interacting with the community and stuff like that. So thank you for all your support, your comments, your likes, your subscribes, and let's keep it going into the next year. Now, I know I've been a little bit choppy with videos recently. I've had a lot going on in my personal life and just took a trip to California, came home, and the day I came home, I tested positive for COVID. So it's been quite a bumpy ride recently, but I promise next week we're going to get back on track with those Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 videos a week. You have my word on that. I'm going to do some catching up this weekend. Now, that being said, today we're going to be talking about an estate sale that I did not expect to find anything good at. Because I was arriving later in the day, but I ended up walking away with a really nice group of comics for an even better price. Don't forget to enter our 2,000 subscriber giveaway here on YouTube for this copy of Secret Wars #1. All you gotta do, hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up for a like, and leave a comment down below. That'll get you 1 entry, and you can check out the rest of our videos from the month of May, June, and July for additional entries. As with many estate sales, this one actually started on a Friday rather than just being a Saturday and Sunday event, which seems to be pretty common practice in the estate sale industry. That being said, a lot of people that work on Fridays can't make it out, so if you can get out to those Friday sales, they might be a really good time to pick stuff up without a lot of competition. Now, that being said, unfortunately, I was not able to get out bright and early when this estate sale opened at 9 a.m. because I had some work meetings, but I was able to go out on my lunch break around 12 o'clock and check out these comic books that they said they have. I rolled up to this house, and it was not what you usually would expect. It was honestly a really, really big house. Probably nearing the $1 million value house. And I went in, and they had all this nice furniture, and randomly in the living room was 3 long boxes of comics. And they had a big sign on them that said, "Comic book lot, $500. Now, I was like, okay, that could be a really good deal, or that could be a really terrible deal. It all depends on what's in there. So I asked the woman running the show, "You're selling it as a lot, just wanted to confirm." Yes, she wasn't piecing anything out. I said, okay. Asked to look through, and she said, "You're more than welcome." Took the tops off. Everything was bagged. Nothing was boarded. And the bags were very, very old. The books pretty much were all from the 80s, and you could tell by the bags that they probably were on there since then. That being said, I went through, and I found some pretty great stuff, and I'll talk about pricing and the deal that we came to at the end. Obviously, I walked away with this stuff, but we'll get into that after I show you what some of the keys were that were in this collection. I'm not really sure what the deal was with the original owner of this collection. Maybe he owned a comic shop at some point, or maybe he was into speculating on comics in the 1980s, far before it was the cool thing to do in the 90s. The reason I say all this is because he had multiple copies, sometimes dozens of copies of certain books, #1s, and sometimes like Milestone or minor key issues, so it might have been a little bit of speculation there. All of these books were bagged, unread, it seems like, so everything was in really good condition, which I was definitely thankful for picking up the collection. First thing here, we got Batman number 497. This was one of the only books from the 1990s in there. It is a minor key. Bane breaks Batman's back, but it does have that iconic story piece in it, this iconic cover, which is a die-cut, gimmicky 90s cover. Like I said, there were a couple copies, nothing really to write home about. Not a super expensive book by any means, but, it adds up. Next, we've got Rocketeer #1. And just to let you know, there was a Star Slayer #1. It already did sell. But Star Slayer #2 is the one to look out for. That's actually the first appearance of Rocketeer. Star Slayer 1 and Rocketeer 1 are a little bit less in value, but still nice books to pick up. And there's been, a little bit of talk and buzz about these characters possibly coming to the screen. This is the book you saw in the beginning. Dazzler #1, the first solo book by X-Men's Dazzler. And the real cool thing about this is the first book that ever sold exclusively in direct editions to comic book stores. There were no newsstand copies of this book right here. You won't find them. They just don't exist. They weren't printed. So yeah, if you ever want to trip up a comic book dealer, ask them, hey, can you look out for a newsstand copy of Dazzler #1 for me? And they'll be looking, and they will never find it. But anyway, there were probably, I think, about 15 to 20 copies of this book in there. And at $10 to $12, that is a pretty nice find, a nice chunk of inventory there for me. This was really an inventory buy because nothing super high end, but a lot of these nice, $10, $15, $20 books and multiple copies of them. So, if multiple people want them, I'll have them for a while. Next, we've got Teen Titans #16, New Teen Titans from the early 1980s. This is the first appearance of Captain Carrot. He's in the backup story here and advertised on the side. Even before Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew #1 came out. This is a nice one to pick up, especially because higher grade copies, 9.8s, I believe sell for like $150 to $200. There were five or six copies in this collection, all of which are really high grade. I'm going to have to look at them a little bit more closely, and I'll probably submit one or two of them as long as they look like they will get the 9.6, 9.8 somewhere in there. So that was a nice one to have. And then we got Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is the comic book adaptation of the movie, Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is the first appearance of Indiana Jones in comic books. Surprisingly enough, despite how popular that franchise is, this book is only about $10. Probably has something to do with the fact that it was really, really popular back then, probably had a really high print run. Nonetheless, $10 for a raw copy, and slabs are probably a little bit over $100, maybe $120, $125, somewhere in there. But a nice one, and this was another book that there were many copies of, at least 20 copies of this book in this collection. Same with this one right here. I think there were 23, if I remember. This is Justice League of America 193. This is the first appearance of the All-Star Squadron, again, in the little backup story listed on the side here, just like Captain Carrot's first appearance. And, 20-some copies. This book in high grade sells about $15. Definitely happy to pick up so many copies of that book. A nice little stash of inventory there. This book had the most copies. I believe it was 37 copies of Marvel Fanfare #1. All really nice high grade. This book sells for between $15 and $20. I decided to just slap 15 on these and sell them at my claim sales, kind of the lower end of what they sell for, because like I said, I got 37 copies of them. That is quite a lot. That is quite a lot of copies of this one book. It's going to take a while to get through them all, but it's a #1. It's a Marvel book from the later part of the Bronze Age, early Copper Age. I forget what year exactly. Probably 83, so that would be late Copper. And it's got Spider-Man on the front. Can't complain about that. Speaking of Spider-Man, the only ASM book in the entire bunch, ASM number, I forget what number this is, 230. This is the second part of the Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut 2-part story arc. Great cover featuring Juggernaut and Spider-Man. Nothing super special about it other than that, but this book sells for about $20, $25. Gotta check and see, the condition of this versus the one in my personal collection. And there was only one copy of this book. This was not one that there were multiples of. Same with this next one. This is Fantastic Four 243, classic cover featuring Galactus. You gotta love it. Who does this cover? John Byrne, maybe? Yeah, John Byrne cover with Galactus. A really nice, not a key for the story, but a key for the cover, a classic cover. Galactus is coming too. So, you know, the way I see it, these books are only going to go up in value once we get some news, once we get possibly an end credit scene appearance or something like that. Really excited for that. The very next issue of Fantastic Four, this is number 244, the first appearance of Frankie Ray as Nova. She appears quite a bit before this, but as Nova in this issue. A lot of people speculating on that for the MCU. This book in high grade goes for like 50, 60 bucks. This is a really, really nice copy. I'm thinking about getting it graded. We're going to check it out a little bit more, wait and see what happens exactly in the near future. You know, maybe if there's possibly an announcement, I just sell it raw. If not, I will hold on to it and possibly get it graded, like I said. But yeah, that's a really, really nice one. This one, not super high grade. This is actually one of the lower grade books in this collection. Like I said, they were all pretty much high grade. This one does have some wear and tear. Looks like it was read. Vision and Scarlet Witch, number 12, the first appearance of Billy and Tommy, who have had their dabblings in the MCU a little bit. I think personally that they're probably going to stick around. You know, they are, you know, Wiccan and Hulkling, Wiccan and Speed. So we will probably see them in the MCU going forward. At least I hope. I think that would be a really cool way to progress the characters. Then we got a book I always love to pick up, Alpha Flight number 1. First solo Alpha Flight book. Sells for $20 to $30 in high grade like this one is. And, you know, definitely a team that I could see showing up at some point in the MCU. Obviously, we're going to get the X-Men first, but doesn't mean we won't eventually get Alpha Flight. Now, there was one more book worth showing, actually, a couple more books worth showing. Forgot about this one. Star Wars 81. Before we get to the funny one that I'm going to show off at the end, we got Star Wars 81. This book is expensive, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even know this was a key. I just was like, oh, this cover is great. Might as well look it up. It might be worth a couple bucks. Turns out this is the issue in which Boba Fett is seen crawling out of the Sarlacc pit, surviving that ordeal in Return of the Jedi, which, as we know now, in Star Wars canon, he did survive the Sarlacc pit, and continues in Mandalorian and Book of Boba, which were Mandalorian certainly really popular. Book of Boba had some mixed reviews, but I thought it was pretty good. Iconic character, nonetheless, really important part of his storyline, so I'm sure this book will hold some pretty nice value. That being said, we're on to this last one here. This is Moon Knight number 1, but as you can see, had some issues. It was kind of crunched between a bunch of things. Now, this is going to be a really nice candidate for a before and after picture. As you can see, we got like this crazy loopy, all messed up everything. It's a mess. But despite that, there aren't a lot of color breaks in these bends and folds and stuff like that. So this is probably going to press out pretty nice. It's not going to be a 9.8 or even a 9.0 or anything like that. But, you know, it's certainly going to look better than it does right now. So I'm definitely going to take some before and after pictures. Should be a fun one to work on. That being said, there was a lot more than that in this collection. There was a nice run of Fantastic Four from the 230s up to the 260s. Not a lot of keys in there. The two big ones I pulled out and showed you. But, first appearance of Aunt Petunia's in there and some Doctor Doom covers. Great books, but I didn't feel like, showing off every single thing in there. There was also, King Conan number 1 through 10, multiple copies of 1. What's it called? Khazar the Savage, number 1, multiple copies of that. things like that. Not big money books or anything, but just multiple copies of number ones or little runs of things. Definitely going to be some good value overall. Like I mentioned in the beginning, there was a $500 price tag on this. I asked the woman, how much, are you firm on that? Like, is that a firm price? That's all I asked. She immediately said, how about 300? I guess no one had taken that 500 and she was kind of feeling desperate. Like I said, I showed up about noon. They'd been open since 9. She offered 300. I came back with 200, thinking that, maybe I could get it for 200, 250. She said, no, I dropped it down to 300. I'm firm there. Nonetheless, 300 was a really good deal. I think, with the multiple copies of books, it's got to be worth well over 1,000. It's kind of hard to tell because it's going to be a slow moving, release of these books, just because it's not like anyone's going to be buying 37 copies of Marvel Fanfare #1. But one at a time at $15 a piece, I'm making my money back on that book alone easily. So that being said, I think it was a good buy. Hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry I'm not my normal lively self. A little bit worn out from the COVID recovery still, but I'll be back next week with 3 videos. I promised you that. And don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. And until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.